I've always believed that preachers ought to lead the way in witnessing to people. And I've also noticed that in recent years in our churches, the people have not been challenged to witness. Used to, it was thought that what a Christian ought to do is go out and win somebody to Jesus Christ. And I've seen in the great old revivals we used to have when I was a kid and a young man growing up, God's people going to folks in the congregation who were lost and talking to them, praying with them, taking them down to a mourner's bench, praying with them. And you don't see that much anymore. The fact of it is, I get a lot of Baptist papers here, and I noticed one church, big church, they averaged $33,000 offering every Sunday. A little better than $33,000 over a period of 3 Sundays, I noticed. They had 3 additions to the church over those 3 Sundays. Those additions were by what we call letter. I call it the transfer of membership from another Baptist church. So it cost that church $33,000 apiece just to get Baptists to move their membership from another Baptist church to theirs. I don't know if that is a good investment of God's money. And I don't know that it produces much that would make God happy. $33,000 just to get one Baptist to move their membership from one Baptist church to another. Now, they had a lot of other things going on in the church. They had ceramic classes, they had aerobics, they had tennis, they had basketball, they had volleyball, they had youth trips, they had old people's trips, they had all of these things I noticed in their paper. Constantly activity around there, all kinds of organizations doing all kinds of things, and nobody being saved. I personally couldn't preach from Sunday to Sunday without people being saved. I think that I would have been so disgusted with myself and I would just quit, because I think that our prime purpose is to win people to Jesus. And the preacher ought to set an example. The pastor ought to set an example. In that, actually, before I ever started preaching, I witnessed to people. I personally won folks to the Lord. I started out when I was about 13 years old, because we had study courses in our BYPU about witnessing. And there they taught us how to go out and witness to people. So I've always gone out and tried to win other people to Jesus Christ, and I have been able to win other people to Jesus Christ. Anybody can, because God promises that they can. He says, "He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him." I've never known anybody who consistently witnessed, but that they were consistently winning somebody to Jesus. Now, we had a church down there, the final church we built at 10th and L here in Anchorage, Alaska. It was very obvious. Across from a park, close enough to downtown where people could come from the hotels. They could walk if they wanted to, come to church there. On the main road going out to our international airport, and everybody who went out there passed right by the church. And that is from the downtown area. And it was obvious, standing out there on a corner, just, you couldn't miss it. So we had all kinds of visitors in our church down through the years. And I had on my desk all the time a big stack of visitors cards about that high. Now, I tried to visit some of those people every day. And I would go, like I said before, about 7:30 in the morning, have my own private devotions. When my staff came, I would read one chapter in the Bible, and then we would pray, and we would pray for some of the people in our church whom we thought needed to be prayed for. And I had some form letters I'd send them and tell them that we prayed for them that day. And I think that would help them a considerable and help them to know that we hadn't forgotten them at church. Generally, unless something would prevent me, by 10 o'clock, I was out of my office and on the streets. I would go into offices. I would go into stores. I would go out where construction jobs were going on. I would go down to the city dock and talk to the fishermen, the folks down there on the boats. I would just go out witnessing to people. And then in the evening, I would take some of those visitor's cards that had a home address here. In the evening, when I thought I could catch people at home together, I would go out and make 2 or 3 visits almost every evening. And it was my joy and my privilege in these visits to win a lot of people to Jesus. And our folks, a lot of our folks, they took up on it. They saw the pastor out witnessing and visiting. And they went out witnessing and visiting. We just had some folks in our church who were constantly witnessing to the lost, and they were bringing the lost in, coming down the aisle with them, saying, "Pastor, this friend of mine wants to be saved." We had in our church there, and they're still there, mourners' benches. When we built the church, I had the folks who made the pews make us some mourners' benches to match the pews. The padding on top of them matched the pews, the wood matched the pews. And we had them right down in front of the platform. And everybody who came to make any kind of decision down there, we had a personal worker who knelt with them and prayed with them before they filled out their decision card or made any other commitment. So we had the old-fashioned mourners bench. I don't know whether they still use them down there or not, but they're still down there, I noticed, in the times I've been back down there for services. I hope that they still use those mourners benches where people can go and pray and make their commitment in prayer to God.